Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're plugging into the world of printed circuit board design, PCBs.
The backbone of, well, pretty much every gadget we use.
Exactly. And we're lucky enough to have this treasure trove of career guides, industry insights, even some AI recruitment tips to help us decode this essential but often hidden field.
Definitely hidden. Most people don't think about what goes into their smartphone or their smart refrigerator.
Right. Our mission to figure out what a PCB designer actually does, why everyone's looking to hire them, and what it takes to break into this booming field.
It's a career path that's, well, electrifying, to say the least.
I love that. Okay, so the RoleCatcher guide you sent over describes a PCB designer as someone who creates the blueprints for these boards. They're figuring out the layout, the carbon tracks, all those connections, basically how to make those tiny components play nice together.
It's like a high-stakes jigsaw puzzle, but with electricity. And instead of a cardboard cutout, you're working with, well, the future of technology.
They use this phrase, envisioning the logical placement, which makes it sound like, I don't know, a very intense game of Tetris.
You're not far off.
Oh,
Spatial reasoning is absolutely essential in PCB design. It's like, imagine an architect designing a skyscraper. Every beam, every wall, every doorway has to be in the right place for the whole thing to stand up. Same with a circuit board, except instead of gravity, you're dealing with currents and signals.
and I'm guessing the pressure's on at every level, right? We've got info here on junior, intermediate, and senior PCB designer roles.
Oh, absolutely. It's a field with a very clear progression, which is something a lot of people find appealing. You can start as a junior designer, learning the ropes.
Right, getting your feet wet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then as you gain more experience, you move up to intermediate, taking on more responsibility, maybe even mentoring those junior designers. And finally, you reach the peak, the senior PCB designer.
The Jedi master of circuit boards. So it's the junior level. It sounds like there's a lot of, like you said, learning the ropes, assisting the more experienced designers, getting comfortable with the software.
A lot of collaboration at that stage, which is great because you're learning from the best. You're part of a team building a strong foundation. Then, as you become an intermediate designer, you start branching out, taking on more independent projects, doing more testing, that sort of thing.
And then you level up to senior PCB designer, leading projects, working directly with clients, maybe even doing some of those high-level feasibility studies.
You become a conductor of the circuit board orchestra. It's a testament to how this career path allows you to not only hone your technical expertise, but also develop those really important leadership and project management skills.
Right. Which brings up a point. It's not just about being a tech genius, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, you need those technical chops. But our research also highlights the importance of soft skills, communication, teamwork, problem solving. Those are just as crucial as knowing your, what do you call them, resistors from your capacitors.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a very good reason for that. The complexity of PCBs these days is mind-blowing. We're talking about cramming more and more functionality into smaller and smaller spaces, which means
More room for error.
more need for collaboration. Designers have to work hand in hand with engineers, product managers, even the manufacturers. You can be the most brilliant PCB designer in the world, but if you can't communicate your vision effectively.
Things could short circuit pretty quickly.
Exactly. And that's where those soft skills become make or break. It's like, imagine trying to explain a dream circuit board layout using only interpretive dance. Not very effective.
Yeah, definitely not getting that prototype built. So we've established PCB design, it's way more than just technical skills. It's this blend of creativity, problem solving, knowing how to work with a team. But why is everyone suddenly clamoring for PCB designers? What's fueling the surge in demand?
Well, a big part of it is the, how do I put it? The tech explosion we're seeing across the board, really, particularly the rise of automation, artificial intelligence.
Right, robots. Everyone's worried about robots taking their jobs.
And it's not entirely unfounded, right? But in the world of PCB design,
Yeah.
AI is actually making designers better at their jobs, not replacing them entirely. It's
Yeah.
like, think of it as giving them superpowers.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example. How is AI actually showing up in a PCB designer's workflow? What's it doing?
So say you're designing a really complex board, thousands of components, this intricate web of connections. There's this process called routing the traces, basically, making sure these tiny conductive pathways are the right length, the right width, that they don't interfere with each other.
That's like a nightmare even to think about.
It used to be a very, very meticulous manual process. But now you've got AI algorithms that can analyze the entire design and optimize those traces in a fraction of the time it would take a human.
Whoa. So instead of spending hours, days even, on what's essentially a super sophisticated connect the dots, PCB designers can focus on what?
The bigger picture. Exactly. And it's not just about speed, though that's obviously a huge factor. AI can often come up with solutions that, frankly, humans just wouldn't think of. Optimizing for things like signal integrity, how the board handles heat, even considering manufacturing costs.
It's like having a super intelligent assistant looking over your shoulder, suggesting things you never would have considered.
It's pretty remarkable. And this is all happening against the backdrop of, well, us humans becoming more and more reliant on electronics. I mean, it's not just our phones anymore.
It's everything. Our homes, our cars, heck, even our refrigerators have circuit boards in them these days.
Right. And as those devices get more complex, the demand for skilled PCB designers just keeps growing. Someone has to design all those intricate boards and do it quickly and efficiently, which is where AI comes in, of course.
So it's like this perfect storm. More gadgets, more complex designs, AI coming in to lend a hand, and suddenly PCB designers are the hottest thing since, well, sliced bread.
Something like that. And here's the other thing. This isn't just a fad. This demand for PCB designers, it's not going anywhere. If anything, it's going to keep growing.
Which makes sense. But what about this whole remote work thing? We saw some mentions of that in the research. Is that a real possibility in the PCB design world?
It's becoming more and more common. And think about it. While you'll always need some hands-on time for testing and such, a lot of PCB design is done on a computer using sophisticated software.
So you could theoretically be designing the world's most advanced circuit board from, like, a coffee shop in Paris.
Potentially. It depends on the company, the specific project, obviously. But the fact that remote work is even an option speaks to how adaptable this field is becoming.
Okay, so for anyone listening who's thinking, sign me up, what's step one? How do you even get into the world of PCB design?
Well, luckily, we've got this stack of career guides to give us a head start. And most of them seem to agree education is key. But what does that mean exactly? We'll dive into that right after this quick break.
So you're telling me there's hope for those of us who maybe weren't exactly electronics whiz kids in school.
You might be surprised. This guide actually lays out a bunch of different pathways. Of course, a solid background in STEM is always a plus.
STEM, right. Science, technology, engineering, math, the classics.
Exactly. We're talking electrical engineering, electronics engineering, computer engineering. Those are all like the bread and butter of PCB design. But it's not just about those core engineering disciplines. They also mention computer science degrees, even industrial design.
Which makes sense, right? Because we talked about the creative problem-solving aspect. It's not just about being a walking circuit board encyclopedia.
It's about bringing ideas to life. And that's where those other fields come in. But listen to this. They also emphasize practical experience, internships, personal projects, even just tinkering around in makerspaces.
So those late-night soldering sessions actually count for something.
Absolutely. It shows you're passionate, that you're willing to get your hands dirty, literally.
Yeah.
Imagine walking into an interview with a portfolio of your own PCB projects.
That's got to be a mic drop moment right there.
Exactly. Okay, but let's talk about those more, official skills. This guide has a whole section on that. Reading comprehension, critical thinking. Pretty standard stuff for any job, right?
Right, the bare minimum. But then it gets interesting. We've got design knowledge, engineering principles, electronics, everything computer-related.
The non-negotiables. But then they throw in something I wasn't expecting. Active listening.
Wait, really? Why is that important for something as, I don't know, technical sounding as PCB design?
Because at the end of the day, PCB design is a team effort. You're not designing in a vacuum. You've got to be able to listen to the engineers, the product managers, even the manufacturers. Understand their needs, their constraints.
So it's not just about being a tech whiz, it's about being a communication whiz, too.
100%. And you know what else they emphasize? Clear, concise writing. Whether it's documenting your design choices, writing reports, even just sending an email, being able to get your point across in writing is huge.
Right, because a garbled message could mean a garbled circuit board, and nobody wants that. Okay, last but not least, we got to talk about the AI in the room. The RoleCatcher excerpts you sent, they really highlight how AI is changing the hiring game. Kind of intimidating, honestly. So how do aspiring PCB designers make sure they stand out to those digital gatekeepers?
It's all about playing smart. And thankfully, RoleCatcher gives us some pretty solid advice. Number one, Tailor your resume for every single job application.
So no more using the same generic resume and just hoping for the best.
Nope. You gotta do your research. Really dissect that job description. What are the specific skills and experiences they're looking for? Make sure those keywords are front and center in your resume.
Speak the algorithm's language.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It can't just be a word salad, you know?
Yeah,
You
right.
still have to sound like a human being, showcase your unique experience. And that's where those personal projects we talked about earlier can really shine.
Ah, the portfolio of PCB glory.
Exactly. It's proof that you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. And that's something even the smartest AI can't fake.
Love it. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. The ins and outs of PCB design, the skills you need, how to navigate this brave new world of AI-powered hiring. What's the big takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they contemplate their future as perhaps a PCB designer?
Here's the truth. PCB design is not for the faint of heart. It's challenging, it's constantly evolving, and it demands a unique blend of technical skills, creativity, and good old-fashioned people skills. But for those who are up for the challenge, the rewards are immense. You get to be at the forefront of innovation, designing the very circuits that power our lives. It's demanding, sure, but it's also incredibly exciting.
Well said. It's like they say, if it were easy, everyone would do it. So for anyone listening who's feeling that spark, who's ready to dive into the intricate, fascinating world of PCB design, go for it. And be sure to check out the resources we've mentioned today because knowledge is power. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those circuits humming.